The lantern that refused to go out. The men of the 88th Pilgrim Battalion used to joke that there were only 3 things that could survive the front: rats, mud, and guilt. By the 7th year of the siege, only the guilt remained. Brother Tess had never fired a rifle. His hands had spent decades illuminating holy texts and copying scripture by candlelight before the church pressed him into military service. They handed him a blessed lantern, wrapped its chain around his wrist, and gave him one command: walk where the soldiers walk. If your light dies, so do their souls. No one explained how a lantern could hold faith. No one had to. Every regiment had one. Some called them relics. Others whispered they were prisoners. Tess had learned never to ask. The trench, called Mercy's Hollow, stretched for miles through poisoned marshland. Its walls leaned inward as though the earth wished to swallow the men hiding inside. Boards floated atop black water that smelled of iron and decay. The dead never stayed buried here. Sometimes an arm surfaced through the mud, sometimes a face, and sometimes they blinked. Nobody looked twice anymore. The artillery had stopped weeks prior. Veterans hated silence more than the bombardment itself. Silence meant something was waiting. Captain Gideon greeted Tess without standing. The officer sat in a bunker surrounded by maps, stained brown from moisture and blood. He looked 50. Records claimed that he was only 28. You brought the light. I did. Good. Where should I place it, Captain? Gideon looked towards the trench line. Keep it moving. Moving? If it stays still for too long, they find it. They? Who's they? The captain merely crossed himself. You'll know. You'll know soon enough. Every evening, Tess walked the firing line. The lantern emitted no flame. Inside floated pale, white radiance, like trapped moonlight. The soldiers reached toward it when he passed. Some wept, some smiled. One young recruit whispered, I can almost remember my mother's face. When Tess looked back moments later, the boy was staring blankly into the darkness again. 3 nights later, the disappearances began. No screams or gunfire. Men simply vanished between watch rotations. Their rifles remained leaning against trench walls. Their boots stayed behind. Sometimes helmets floated gently atop stagnant water. Search parties found nothing, only long trails pressed into the mud, as though something with dozens of legs had dragged itself across the floor, always away from the lantern, never towards it. A corporal named Tom approached Tess privately. "I've been hearing footsteps. So has everyone." "No." He leaned closer. "They're my footsteps." Tess frowned. "I can hear my own boots walking after me." The priest laughed uneasily. The corporal did not. "I stop and they stop. I start walking and they follow. But yesterday," his lips trembled, "I heard them walk even after I climbed into bed." The next morning, Tom was gone. Only wet footprints circled his sleeping mat. There were dozens of them, as though invisible feet had paced around him until dawn. Winter came. Snow fell gray instead of white. The flakes tasted bitter. They landed warm upon the skin. The battalion buried 6 men who suffocated despite having no wounds. Doctors opened their lungs. Inside, they found soil. Fresh, damp earth packed into every airway. No one spoke during the funerals. The lantern glowed brighter than usual. Tess began dreaming. He stood alone in a cathedral without walls. Stars hung beneath his feet. The pews stretched endlessly into the darkness. At the altar sat an old woman, weaving rope from human hair. Without looking up, she always asked the same question: "Why do you keep carrying the door?" Each time, Tess answered, "It is a lantern." The woman sighed. "Not anymore." Then he awoke. One patrol finally returned with news. They had found an abandoned enemy trench. No bodies, no weapons, and no signs of battle. Only thousands of lanterns hanging from hooks. Every single one of them was extinguished. Each contained a human eye, all of them open, and all staring towards Mercy Hollow. Captain Gideon ordered the trench collapse immediately. No trophies, no investigation. The soldiers obeyed faster than they had ever before. The rain returned, and it never stopped. Water climbed higher until men stood knee-deep while sleeping. The walls sagged. The dead floated. Sometimes bloated corpses drifted past, moving against the current. Sometimes they whispered prayers. Tess noticed none of them looked towards him. Every corpse stared instead at his lantern with desperate longing. One night he awoke to gentle knocking. 3 taps, then a pause, followed by 3 more taps and another pause. He opened the bunker door. No one waited outside. Only darkness. Then he heard it again, from beneath his feet, knocking, from under the trench floor. Dozens of tiny fists. 3 taps. A pause. 3 more taps. And another pause. The men heard it too. No one slept afterward. Engineers dug downward, hoping to reinforce the foundations. 5 feet below the mud, they struck wood. No roots, they were planks. An older trench, then another beneath that, and another. Entire forgotten fortifications layered atop each other, descending into impossible depth. Each level contained skeletons seated upright, all clasping extinguished lanterns, every skull tilted upward, facing Tess. The engineers resealed the pit. No report was filed. Captain Gideon finally confessed, "I've served 6 battalions." What? How? Well, they all died. You survived? No. The captain smiled sadly. I just keep arriving. He unrolled a mold-covered map. Mercy's Hollow existed on none of them. Every survey showed uninterrupted marsh. No command remembers this place. Then who supplies us? They do. They? Who's they? The same ones who need that light of yours. That evening, the lantern flickered for the first time. The trench erupted in panic. Veterans screamed. Men threw themselves into prayer. One soldier shot himself before the light could fade. Tess caught the lantern before it fell. The glow steadied. The entire battalion collapsed in relief. Only later did he realize something impossible. The dead soldier had no shadow. Neither did the captain, or most of the regiment for that matter. He began watching carefully. Some men never ate. Some never blinked, and some vanished when he looked away too quickly. One private had no reflection in pooled water. Another left no footprints. Yet they laughed, complained, and prayed. They shared cigarettes. If not for the lantern, perhaps they had been dead for years. The attack came without warning. No artillery, no horns, fog simply rolled over the trench. It was dense and black. Within it moved shapes taller than church towers. Not monsters exactly, more like silhouettes cut from the night itself. Where they stepped, stars disappeared. Rifle fire passed through them. Shells detonated soundlessly. Men vanished one by one into the mist. No screams, only empty helmets hitting water. Tess held the lantern high. The creatures halted, and slowly they turned. Thousands of eyeless faces focused upon them. One enormous arm reached forward. The light forced it back. For hours they remained frozen, watching and waiting. By dawn, the fog withdrew. Half the battalion remained. Captain Gideon sat against a wall, smiling. His body ended at the waist. Below him, there was nothing. No blood, no wound, just simply absence. He looked up at Tess. "You kept it lit." I tried. "You always do." "Always? What do you mean, Captain?" The captain closed his eyes. "Ah, I've watched you fail before." Tess could no longer trust memory. He searched old records. In a moldy chest, he discovered journals, dozens of them. Every one belonged to her brother Tess. Different handwriting, different years. The oldest dated nearly 2 centuries prior. Each ended with identical words: "I must not let the lantern die." He confronted the chaplain attached to headquarters. The old priest laughed until tears rolled down his cheeks. "You think you were the first? What is this place? A hinge? For what? The door. You mean the lantern? For God's sake, they're the same thing." "And what if it goes out?" The priest stared towards the horizon, where black fog waited patiently. Then something walks through. The final supply convoy arrived weeks later. It was only one wagon, no horses. It rolled itself. Inside were replacement uniforms, already carrying the names of dead soldiers. Fresh dog tags engraved before casualties occurred. Boxes of letters written by families that no longer existed. One crate held only polished lantern glass. No explanation accompanied any of it. The food dwindled. Ammunition vanished. Yet the lantern never dimmed. Instead, it grew brighter. Too bright. Men began avoiding direct eye contact with it. One claimed he saw cities burning inside. Another saw oceans of hands reaching upward. A dying medic whispered, "I can hear children singing beneath the light." Then he bit off his own tongue and died in silence. Eventually, only 12 soldiers remained, and that was cut down to 9, and then 6. The trench stretched empty in both directions. No neighboring regiments answered signal flares. No headquarters replied to radio transmissions. Only static. Within that static, Tess occasionally heard breathing. It was slow and patient. It was waiting. One evening, he climbed out of the trench. No one stopped him. Of course, there wasn't anyone to stop him. He expected enemy lines. Instead, he found endless marsh in every direction. No trenches, no forts, no banners, just miles of stagnant water. Mercy's Hollow sat alone beneath an ash-filled sky, as though the war everywhere else had already ended or never existed. When he looked back from 50 yards away, the trench disappeared. Only the lantern remained visible, floating in darkness. He returned before dawn. The next night, the lantern finally failed. Just once. Only a heartbeat. The glow blinked. Darkness swallowed everything. And in that instant, Tess heard footsteps. Not one pair, but thousands, rushing towards him, towards the place where the light had been. The lantern reignited. The sound ceased, but one change remained. Beyond the trench stood countless human figures, perfectly still, watching. None possessed faces. Every sunrise added more. Hundreds became thousands, and thousands became forests of silent bodies extending into the horizon. No attacks came, or movement. They just waited. Years seemed to pass, or days. His beard whitened. His hands trembled. The lantern chain fused into his wrist until metal disappeared beneath skin. Removing it became impossible. He dreamed no longer of the old woman. Instead, she stood beside him while awake. She was patient and watching. At last, she asked, "Are you ready to put down the door?" He whispered, "I don't know how." She smiled with immeasurable sadness. "That is why it was given to you." Then she vanished forever. Tess remained alone. The trench collapsed section by section around him. Mud reclaimed bunkers. Water swallowed artillery. Crosses tilted and sank. Only he and the lantern endured. The faceless crowd drew nearer, rows upon rows, always silent, expecting. He raised the light. Its glow illuminated not enemies, but people, children, priests, farmers, kings and pilgrims. Every face wore the expression of someone waiting to be let inside. They were simply asking. The realization broke what little hope he possessed. The lantern had never protected the world from monsters. It protected the world from humanity itself, from every soul trapped behind a gate too terrible to open. If the light died, all of them would finally come home. No records remember Brother Tess. No church calendar bears his name. No regiment lists the 88th Pilgrim Battalion among its honored dead. Maps show only marshland where Mercy's Hollow should have stood. Yet travelers who become lost in heavy fog sometimes report seeing a lone white light far across the water. It never flickers, and it never moves. Those who walk towards it are never found. Those who walk away often swear they heard an exhausted old man whisper through the mist, "Please, keep your distance. I am so very tired."